Welcome to r/Am I the A-hole, where OP breaks off his sister's engagement. And stick around for more crazy Am I the A-hole posts, such as OP accusing her mom of making her fat, and this first one where OP denies an old woman shelter from a storm. I, 23 female, am an avid hiker in Australia. Last week, I encountered a middle-aged woman around 50 years old as I was coming off a trail. She was walking in my direction as I came out of the bush. It was strange to see her. The sun was almost down and the weather was starting to turn. Also, this was an intermediate collection of trails at best, difficult even for me at worst, and she didn't look super athletic. Point is, my weird radar was going off already. She walked up to me and stopped, standing too close for my comfort, gestured towards the clearing where my car was parked, and asked whether it was my car. No greeting or anything. When I looked over, something made me uncomfortable. There were no cars other than mine in sight. The trail I was on isn't crazy far from civilization, but it's not a walk away. One of those highway rest stops that's there for the trail and a few parking spots. No way she could have got there without driving. I let her know that yes, it was my car, to which she responded something like, "Perfect. There's a storm coming. I can't be caught in it and I need to go home." She was very matter of fact. It seemed like she had already decided what would happen. Without waiting for my response, she started striding for my car. I am glad I always lock my doors because she would have hopped right in the passenger seat had the door open. As she was walking over to it, I went after her, trying to explain that I wasn't sure it was a good idea for her to hitch a ride, asking why she was out there in the first place. I was talking to a brick wall until she realized the car was locked, at which point she turned around with this look of anger and frustration on her face. She starts ranting the same stuff as before. I need to get home. A storm is coming. I cannot be caught in it. Why don't you get it? I was confused at this point and a little scared, as this woman was now a barrier between me and my vehicle. I told her something like, "I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with having a stranger in my car." She stared me down for a few seconds, I guess trying to gauge her chances at asking again. And just like that, the anger drops from her face and she's silent. I was really uncomfortable. I asked if I could call someone if there was another way to help. She starts walking towards me, scary, but then right past me. I'm still asking her questions, then just saying things like, "Hello," and "Excuse me," no response. She walked to the other end of the rest stop and maintained eye contact with me as she sat down on a log, then just stared at nothing. I didn't follow her. I got into my car really shaken up and drove away. As soon as I was back in cell range, I called fire and rescue. They said they would send someone out. I was scared for my safety in the moment, but she was just some woman alone in the middle of nowhere. Am I the asshole for refusing this strange woman a ride/shelter in my car? Dude, that sounds straight out of a horror movie. I would have never let that woman in your car, and there's no way you're the asshole for just prioritizing your own safety over a stranger that you just met, who, if you're gonna ask for a ride, this is the worst way possible. Like, just assuming like, oh yeah, this stranger will give me a ride. What? This sounds like A, out of a horror movie, B, out of like a trafficking nightmare. I'm very curious what the comments say. Not the a-hole. I think calling fire and rescue is a kind thing to do. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was probably in that moment the smartest thing you could do. Am I the a-hole for telling someone I'm not friendly when their dog came up to me? Went to a brewery restaurant with my wife. Our name was called, and to get our table indoors, we had to cut through the patio. We got stopped for a few moments behind a table, leaving and saying goodbye. In those moments, a lab-type dog gets up and starts sniffing my ankles. I look at the owners, say, "What the hell?" and point at the dog. They just say the classic line of, "Oh, don't worry, he's friendly." I admit I was a touch rude. I just say, "I'm not friendly." They pull the dog back under the table. They start saying, "If you aren't friendly, you shouldn't be coming to a dog-friendly restaurant." I tell them just because the place is dog-friendly doesn't mean that it is okay for your dog to come up to me. I don't want it in my effing space. They seem baffled that somebody didn't like their dog. He called me an a-hole and told me to find somewhere else to walk. I say F off as we head to our table. My wife was like, "You're right, but could have been friendlier." Was I the a-hole? Yeah, I mean, there's a-holes on both sides. Like, he didn't need to be as mean as he was about it. Definitely not something you have to be rude about, but also I do think people thinking like, "Oh, hey, I take my dog out in public and everyone should just deal with it." I don't agree with that. Just because dogs are cute and fluffy and people traditionally like them doesn't mean that everybody is going to like them. Control your dog, but also I just think this whole situation was not a big deal at all. OP made a big deal. The owner made a big deal. They both just need to shut up and go do their own thing. Everyone sucks here. They could have kept the dog closer to them. You didn't have to be such an a-hole about it. Here's a "you're the a-hole." You were hostile from beginning to end of this interaction. You could have asked them politely, but chose to be rude for no reason. ETA to people commenting that some people have PTSD/trauma related to dogs that could justify such a strong reaction. Do you seriously think OP wouldn't have included that in his post if it were true to him. He knows he was touch rude in his first reaction, and the whole interaction spiraled from there. I mean, you don't have to have like PTSD or trauma necessarily related to dogs, just not like them. Maybe you're allergic or something, but yeah, I think you just need to be a nicer person. Like, this person doesn't sound like in a regular interaction they would be a nice human being anyways. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to play a game my girlfriend created? My 27, girlfriend 24, has been working on a visual novel game as a side project for almost 2 years and recently finished it. She wanted me to play it, but I initially declined because I'm not into visual novels or reading long stories. But after she begged, I gave it a try and played for a good 15 minutes. Now, I can tell she put a lot of effort in the writing and the art, and it was a good start, but I just got tired of reading and stopped. She asked what I thought and wanted me to eventually finish it, and I tell her what I thought about the choices and the endings, but I told her I had no plans to. She looked shocked and asked if it was boring. I told her no. It's just that I'm not into this type of genre, and she knows I'm not into reading, but asked me to make exceptions this time since she made it. I got upset because I think she's being childish and wants to blackmail me into doing something I don't want. After I made it clear I wasn't continuing, she hasn't talked to me. I already know that she is talented and smart, so just because I don't want to play it doesn't mean I don't support her. Some of my friends agree she's being immature, but others think I should be more supportive, so am I the a-hole? Does OP know what blackmail is? Like, I don't see any form of blackmail in this post at all. The post is flared as a-hole. I don't know, man. I think, like, if he doesn't enjoy it, he can say it a lot nicer, or at least explain it to her. I would personally put in everyone sucks here. Like, dude, just suck it up like it's your girlfriend. If it's someone that you actually want to spend your life with, you're gonna have to do things that you're not necessarily going to enjoy. But on the other hand, if the girlfriend's looking for a serious opinion on whether or not this game is actually fun, her target audience or her testing audience shouldn't be this boyfriend. Like, clearly he doesn't enjoy it. Go show it to somebody who enjoys this type of game, whether that you find him on a Reddit thread or whether it's a friend of yours. Don't use your boyfriend's opinion because clearly he doesn't even enjoy it in general. You're the a-hole. I just read the rubbish you wrote and I'm not your significant other. Fair. When I first started writing, sharing it was the hardest thing. It really is opening yourself up to be vulnerable. Unfortunately, some people will jam their spite knife in when you do, but in my experience, the only people rude enough to do so are faceless people on the internet. I get that some people don't want to view/read your work, and that's fine for extended family or if you already have a wider pool of people interested in your art, since you don't need validation. And that's the key here. Fucking validation. Pour yourself out for 2 years on a project and you're insanely self-conscious about, and ask your partner, the person who is supposed to support you, to dedicate some of your time to it, and they won't do it because they say they don't like reading. Not even more than 15 fucking minutes. OP is such an asshole here. After reading that, I do sympathize with the whole vulnerability thing. I don't know, this is so hard because especially with my work, I don't look for validation in my partners or the people I'm seeing at the time, because honestly, a lot of what I do, a lot of what I make is not for them. Like, I would never send this video to a girl I was seeing and being like, what did you think? Because honestly, their opinion doesn't mean shit. Like, your guys' opinions mean shit to me, at least, and to, you know, the success of the video, right? But I understand what this person's saying. It is really hard to be vulnerable to people, and when someone is vulnerable with you, you want to be nice. I think there's a way he could have said, like, hey, I don't like reading and I'm not that interested in the game. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but for somebody who isn't interested in reading, it's probably not going to rope them in. I feel like people are going to insanely disagree with me on this one, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this post or any other post that I read. Am I the a-hole for mostly ignoring my girlfriend on her birthday? Yesterday, we celebrated my male 23 girlfriend's female 21 21st birthday. Her parents threw a big celebration party with all her friends and family. For me personally, this was the first time I met anyone in her family with the exception of her parents. It was also her first birthday I celebrated with her since we've been dating for around 7 months. Now, I'm originally from Romania, from a region called Murmuris. I probably fucking butchered that. But I've been living abroad for 11 years now. My girlfriend mentioned at some point that one of her grandmas was also from Romania, but we didn't discuss it in detail. So yesterday I met my girlfriend's grandmother, and what can I say? I couldn't believe how small the world was. Not only was she Romanian, but from the same county as me. So we talked a lot. She told me her life story. We reminisced about I really enjoyed the conversation, especially talking in my native language, and that's how I spent most of the party. Of course, when my girlfriend asked me to take pictures with her or when the cake came, I gave her my full attention. But for the most part, she spent time with her friends, dancing, drinking, etc., while I was just talking with her grandmother. I didn't pay it much mind, but after the party was done, she told me she felt neglected by me during her birthday, and this morning she seems pissed off at me. Interesting, they labeled this no a-holes here. I don't know, man. I think he's a little bit of the a-hole here. Like, bro, if you really want to talk to the grandma, invite her to coffee or something. Like, why are you choosing now to have this? I get it. Like, you want to experience your home country, and I want to be sympathetic and empathetic towards that, but like, you know, this is your girlfriend. This day needs to be about her, and also maybe she should have communicated to him, like, during the party, hey, pay attention to me, right? At the end of the day, like, that day is supposed to be about her. His main focus should be her. The grandma, well, maybe the grandma might die. In theory, the grandma should be there tomorrow. Invite the grandma to go grab coffee so you guys can have those conversations and whatnot. And I'm sure the grandmother would appreciate that as well. And maybe the girlfriend would want to sit in on that, or who knows. I definitely would go more towards you're the a-hole. Reason for no a-holes here, I would think she'd be excited you connected so well with her grandmother. Family approval makes relationships a lot easier. That being said, you probably could have done a better job striking a balance between talking to her grandma and hanging out with her during the party. It's hard to fault her based on your description of events. I think the only, like, quote unquote fault that the girlfriend has is just not communicating it, like being like, hey, like, I know you're connecting with my grandma, but I kind of want you to spend time with me. Like, dudes are dumb and oblivious sometimes, and that's our own fault, but, you know, communication. Am I the a-hole for ruining Steve Irwin for my friend's daughter? What? I-38 female got to visit my friend recently and spent the night. One of her daughters, 13 female, spent a couple of hours watching old episodes of The Crocodile Hunter on TV. My friend said her daughter's been pretty interested in animals and wildlife nature, so they got her some of those to watch, since she remembers enjoying those shows as a kid and the modern versions of them don't seem as good. I thought this was great, as I actually grew up near Beerwah, Australia, where the Australia Zoo is. We went a lot, even into my young adulthood before moving to the US for work. Got to see Steve a couple of times, and later Bindi when she got older at a couple talks/small group settings. My friend said, wow, you should totally tell my daughter about that. So a while later, I went to the living room where the daughter was watching the shows. I told her I got to see Steve a couple times before he died, and later Bindi, and she got excited and started asking me a lot of questions. I told her he seemed like a great guy as much as I could remember about the animals. Then I told her about the detail about the first talk/smallish group I saw him at, where he warned us that he had to help cover for a keeper who called in sick and cleaned out the primate houses right before this talk and hadn't showered yet, so we really might not want a front row seat. I didn't listen and got one anyways, and oof, I regretted it. I'm sure it was a great talk and a treasured memory looking back, but at the same time, all I could think of was how not to gag. This horrified my friend's daughter more than I thought, as she went, ew, he smelled bad. I was sort of taken aback and said, well, what do you think, being around animals all day, every day? That day was worse than others, I'm sure, but come to think of it, he stunk pretty bad the other time I got close enough to smell him too. So did Bindi, for that matter. My friend's daughter is apparently also very into spas and perfumes and smelling nice, and this has put a great damper on her thoughts of working with wildlife and even her enthusiasm for seeing it through a screen. My friend called me the next day and said, of all the things to share with her, did you really have to bring up how Steve Irwin smelled like monkey waste when you met him and distracted you from the talk? She said that seemed like an inappropriate thing to bring up to a young girl and also disrespectful to Steve's memory. But I don't think it was inappropriate to bring up. I think it's a realistic part of the work Steve did and was certainly something that stuck in my memory. If anything, it made me respect the work he did more. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole. It seems like, once again, a situation that just blew up for no reason. Like, eventually the daughter is going to learn that, hey, animals do be kind of stinky though. And it's honestly better for her to learn now and to be like, maybe I don't want to do that, versus like if they get into college and start a veterinary program and they're like a year in and they start working with stinky animals and they're like, maybe I don't want to do that. Learn that young. I would put money that this parent like kind of coddles their kid, shelters them a little bit. Like, this just seems like something really stupid to get upset about. So not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's 13, for crying out loud. This isn't Santa Claus. Her world isn't going to end now that she knows animals can smell. Honestly, I'm more shocked that it took her till the age of 13 to learn that animals... I'm pretty sure I knew that by the time I was 8. Animals be stanky. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's making me that. A couple of years ago, I, 34 female, lost my job due to the company I worked for going into financial trouble. My husband at the time didn't work, which caused us to struggle for money and eventually led to him abandoning me and our 3 children, 9 female, 7 female, and 5 male. Because of this, my parents, 65 male and 64 female, offered to let us move back in with them for a while. Everything was fine, but after a few weeks, I noticed that the food being given to us was both unhealthy and given in very large quantities. I didn't want to offend my mom, so instead of bringing it up with her, I offered to do some of the cooking instead. However, she insisted it was all done by her because she enjoys it. Reluctantly, I obliged and just thought, I'll just leave most of it. The problem with this is that she started offering anything I didn't eat to the children, who always ate all of it since they didn't realize how bad it was for them. I also didn't want to talk about this with the children because creating a fear about gaining weight always does more harm than good. This carried on for about a year before I finally brought it up with her. I've gained almost 50 pounds and I'm now almost obese, and 2 of the children are clinically obese now as well, with the youngest still being firmly overweight. All of them get a reasonable amount of exercise, but it makes little difference when they're eating almost 3,000 calories a day. A few weeks ago, I watched their school sports day and it was worrying how little they could run. The 2 girls couldn't even run 100 meters and had to walk the final part. I told my mom she had to stop giving us so much unhealthy food, but she snapped at me and said I should be grateful that she's even letting us stay there. I hate conflict, so I ended up backing down, but I feel really bad about the effect it's having on my kids. Recently, the oldest one has been trying to avoid sport at all costs since she doesn't enjoy it with the extra weight. The thread labeled her as the a-hole. I think if I had to really put a label, I think I'd have to go with a-hole as well. I respect that she wants her kids to be healthy. Like, I think a lot of food habits come from when you're a kid. It seems like she's very conscious. She even said like she doesn't want to have the conversation necessarily directly with the kids because she doesn't want them to have eating disorders based off of those conversations, because those types of things really bleed into it. But at the end of the day, like, if her mom is letting them live with them and is cooking for them, I feel like beggars cannot be choosers in that situation. I almost want to say no a-holes here because it's definitely not everyone sucks. Like, I don't think the OP sucks. I don't think OP's mom sucks. They just have different opinions on how they want to live their life, and a very difficult situation where OP needs the mom to live, but the mom is currently living a certain way, and if they're going to do that, then they have to mesh with it. This one does have an update. I brought it up again more harshly with my mom, but she refused to budge, so I took the kids to a pediatrician. It went how you might expect. They need to lose weight and have to cut down on how much they're eating. I explained the situation, and he wrote a note for my mom explaining the importance of the kids losing weight. After reading some of the comments, I suggested I be in control of serving the food so she could still cook, but I had control of portions. My mom wasn't so keen on this, so we met in the middle and allowed the children to get their own servings. Although they still took more than was probably healthy, it was less than before, so progress was made. My mom still did my portion and is still very large, but I didn't mention it and just ate it because I didn't want to annoy her just when I was making progress. After dinner, I managed to convince my 2 youngest children to come on a walk with me and my dad. The walk wasn't long, probably only about a mile, but it was a step in the right direction. However, when I got home, my mom told me she had given my oldest daughter, who stayed behind, seconds because she looked hungry. I told her not to do that again, but she was pretty non-committal, so I'm not sure I trust her. And just to clear up a few misconceptions, I have a job, but it is basically minimum wage. My mom is also obese or very nearly obese, so it isn't just us it's affecting. Update 2, for anyone still interested. I've spoken to my kids about how they don't have to eat everything put in front of them. I've also asked my mom if I can make a side dish on top of the meal she cooks. Today, I just made a light salad and put it out before any other food was out so the kids wouldn't prioritize the less healthy food. All of them ate the salad before my mom arrived, and we were allowed to serve themselves again. They still all took more than I would have liked, but for the first time, my youngest complained about being full before finishing his plate. Before my mother could say anything, I took his plate and put all the remaining food onto my own. I knew dumping it in the bin would cause a row, so I just ate it myself, so I wouldn't undo any progress with my mom. My oldest 2 ate their portions and the salad, but at least they got something healthy into their bodies. Turns out they get quite sluggish after eating dinner, so I didn't push them to do exercise today, and I'm going to go for walks with them before dinner instead next time. I'm also in contact with a friend of mine to see if I can stay at their house for a few months before I get a place of my own, hopefully before the end of the year. Once again, just very hesitant to call this mom an a-hole. Like, clearly they care about their kids. I want to see what people said in the comments. You're the a-hole. How can you neglect your kid to the point that they're obese and blame it on your mom? Oh, so they're saying that it's OP's fault. It was your responsibility to set boundaries. This is your fault, not your mom. I don't know if I agree with that. That seems like a very base layer read of the conversation, and that's not how I picked it up. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Reddit can be too harsh. I'm not gonna go with the a-hole here, but I definitely want to know what you guys think in the comments below about this post, and of course any other posts I read in this video. Am I the a-hole? a-hole for not giving the mother of my dead husband's child his possessions. Me, 30 female, and my husband got married when we were 25 after 6 years. He passed away in an accident in April. A few weeks before the accident, I found out that he had a one-night stand with a woman he works with. When he died, I hadn't decided yet what was going to happen in our relationship. We entered counseling and we were still living together, but obviously it was hectic. I wasn't sure if we were going to divorce. I decided not to tell our families and only confided in a few close friends and my therapist. I didn't want opinions from everyone. I also didn't tell his family when he died. There was no reason to. A few weeks ago, the affair partner reached out to me. She's 5 months pregnant and preparing to raise the baby. She wanted me to tell his family because she wants her child to have a relationship with his family and be connected to his culture. I said I wouldn't do this and simply passed along their contact information. Shit hit the fan. I am close with his brothers and I thought that they were going to raise him from the dead and kill him again. Apologies for the dark humor. They're coming around to the idea of having a relationship with the baby, but I do not want to, nor has the mother offered, which is fine. Mother has gotten back in touch with me to ask for some of my husband's possessions. She wants his clothes, his books, his record collection, and bizarrely, his wedding ring, for the baby to feel connected to its father. I've made it very clear to her that I will be giving her nothing of the sort. His parents and brother have some of his stuff. She can access things like that through him. She kept pushing and I lost my temper and called her an outrageous bitch who should find some shame. I wouldn't be opposed to passing some of the stuff along to the child via my in-laws when they are older and can appreciate it, not the wedding ring, which was the worst request in my opinion, but other sentimental stuff. I've also retained a lawyer to look into whether I owe the child any money legally for my husband's passing. If I don't, I might set up a trust fund for them when they're an adult with his money because I really don't need it. I just do not want to give this woman all that I have left of my husband. I really do not trust her with any of it. Obviously, she thinks I'm a bitter, raging monster bitch and an asshole, and my in-laws are divided. My in-laws are largely supportive, but some think I need to give some of his stuff to her and the baby. Some of his brothers have told me that they are sympathetic, but that I'm behaving like an a-hole and a baby by not cooperating for the sake of the child. I'm unsure whether the complicated grief is clouding my judgment. Wow, this is just messy, bro. This is messy as hell. I'm taking the position of not the a-hole. Seems to be what the rest of the thread thought as well. I think it's ridiculous that some of the in-laws want her to just be cooperative. Like, no, she got cheated on, and then to add insult to injury, salt in the wound, her husband dies, and then hey, you know what, that wasn't worse enough. By the way, his mistress is having his baby. I would be in shambles. I'm going to sympathize with OP, not the a-hole at all. Do whatever you need to do, and then yeah, like, I love what they said about, oh, in the future maybe there's an opportunity for us to have a connection, or for me to meet up with them and give them some of their stuff, or to set up this trust fund. But like right now, when it's fresh, like, she hasn't been able to heal from any of these wounds yet. Like, let her heal, let her do her thing. Absolutely completely unfair for anybody to expect her to do anything else. Not the a-hole. She wants to get possessions of her partner after they die. They should consider getting married instead of being the other woman. There's nothing bitter about what you're doing. She just doesn't know how life or the law works. Edit, it's not your job to have any sort of relationship with the child, and I also don't get why you'd need to set up a trust fund for the baby. Seems like you're willing to do more than you need to. Also, what exactly does your husband have that a baby would even want? That's fair. I mean, none of the stuff that she asked for is like, oh, hey, like, he needs it. Like, the wedding ring, I do have to say, is extremely uncalled for. Oh, hey, let me take the thing that's supposed to symbolize the marriage that I fucked up. That's crazy. Am I the a-hole for breaking my sister's engagement? My, male 37, sister, female 29, recently got engaged to the love of her life I call Derek, male 34. They've been dating for about a year and a half, and we, the family, have gotten to know Derek since the beginning of this year. We all love Derek, especially my dad and I. We watched F1 every weekend together with the rest of our friends. The engagement was announced about 3 weeks ago. We were all obviously excited. 2 weeks ago at the last GP, I was talking to Derek, and at some point, reason I might be an a-hole, my mind slipped, and I said something along the lines of, it's great you found someone you love so much you would abandon having children. Oh no, dude. Sadly, my sister had to fight a battle with ovarian cancer when she was 16 to 17, which resulted in the surgical removal of her ovaries, and from what I understand, part of her uterus. Now, I didn't think much about my comment, but turns out she never discussed this with him. It was like I dropped a nuclear bomb of information. He said now it made sense why she always avoided discussing about children. Well, needless to say, the engagement broke, and they have now separated, and in the eyes of my sister and my mother, I'm the a-hole who separated my sister from the love of her life. Wow, and they labeled him everyone. No way OP sucks here. No, I can't believe people would even say OP sucks here. Like, it's not like he intentionally tried to break them up. What? If anyone's the OP here, as bad as it sounds, it's the sister. That's the conversation that the sister needs to have with the boyfriend before they're about to get married. Either way, this was gonna come out and probably end poorly. I mean, it's crazy that they would even get married before having the kid conversation before this. Hold on, I want to read the update. The update has to be crazy. It appears there's been a general consensus that everyone, meaning my sister and I, are assholes. And in retrospective, I cannot disagree. I'm an a-hole for disclosing my sister's medical information behind her back, and she is an a-hole for not discussing such important medical information with significant other. I've sent my sister an apology letter. She hasn't replied yet, but she will. I know her well. I just need to give her some space. As for those calling me a misogynist, F off. Perhaps my choice of words in the post was wrong because my English is my second language. Also, I meant biological children, but don't for a second believe I think my sister is less of a woman because she can't bear children. It's just that she's been through so much suffering and heartbreak because of men who did mistreat her due to her medical condition. I would know I was the one to support her emotionally, not our always busy parents. I was genuinely happy because I had mistakenly thought she found someone who accepts her for who she is. As a result, I made comment during a conversation and made an a-hole of myself. And I cannot blame her for so much for lying either. This is/was her longest lasting relationship. I guess she was terrified of the potential consequences. As for Derek, I talked to him. We're going to hang out this weekend. Plans were made in advance. I'd be letting down a lot of people, and that's not who I am. I'll talk in more detail with him. At worst, there will be some closure. At most, maybe something can be mended. His primary complaint was my sister withholding something so important and her attitude when confronted. He said he didn't think much about the kids prior, and anytime he'd mention it to my sister, she'd answer with something like, "We'll see," and so he didn't want to pry into something that made her uncomfortable. He said he needs some space for my sister to rethink and reevaluate how he envisions his future. I guess it's a good point. Like, it's not his position to disclose that medical information, but honestly, like, if my sibling was getting married or engaged to somebody, I would think that they knew that medical information. Like, I have to sympathize with OP here because I would probably make the same mistake, low-key. And I don't know, it didn't come across to me that he was being misogynistic. Maybe this is the one where you guys are like, I want his head on a stake, you know? But truthfully, I don't think OP's the a-hole. I want to know about your guys' opinions on this one. This one's crazy. Everyone sucks here. Obviously, your sister shouldn't have lied and should be honest with him, so it's her fault the engagement ended. But also, what a shitty thing to say to someone. Like, not having children is some huge burden, and that your sister needed to do more to justify him marrying her because of her ovarian cancer. I don't know. It didn't come off to me like that. Like, I could definitely tell English was not this person's first language, especially them talking about F1. That's a very European sport. Not that everybody in Europe doesn't speak English. I promise I'm cultured. European people are gonna be like, head on a stake. Am I the a-hole for excluding my new neighbor from stuff and hurting her feelings? Last month, my old neighbors moved out and some new ones moved in. A couple in their late 20s with 4 small children. The wife is a stay-at-home mom and the husband is a trucker. I went to introduce myself and bring them a pie right before they moved in. I didn't really like their vibe, but I'm a friendly person, so I tried inviting the wife to things. Our neighborhood is small, a collection of 10 houses. Everyone knows everyone and is generally pretty friendly. No one else has young kids though. It's mostly couples with no kids or older couples whose kids moved out. I hang out with the 2 of my female neighbors who are similar age to my own, mid-20s. We go on walks, have lunch at each other's houses, etc. I only work 3 days a week, so I have a lot of free time. I invited the new neighbor, Molly, to 2 different things, lunch at my house and also a walk/hike me and the others were going on. Both times, she just assumed she could bring her kids and showed up in my house with them. I turned her away from lunch at my home because I don't want 4 rowdy kids under the age of 6 in my not childproof house. She was upset because she has no one who can ever watch them and she can't come without them. She did bring them on a walk with us, but we couldn't go in the forest because her stroller, so it kind of ruined things for us. There's no trees or shade in the neighborhood and the summer heat makes it off. The forest is much better. Since then, I've been avoiding Molly like the plague. I just don't want to be her friend. She's invited me over, asked to come over, bring her kids. She even asked me to watch her kids the other day so she can have a break. I barely know the woman and I feel like her behavior is pretty inappropriate and she's maybe not picking up on social cues. Today, me and my other neighbors went for a walk in the forest and she saw us go. She texted me to ask why she wasn't invited and I said it's because we don't want our plans to be altered by her children and she's expressed that she can't do anything without her children. She went on a rant about how it takes a village and we don't understand what it's like and she called us all a-holes. I agree with her that I don't understand what it's like because I would personally never choose to have 4 kids with an absent husband. I just feel like she's being unreasonable to expect us to have a bad time just so that she can have a good time. Her kids were super annoying and hard to deal with. My husband thinks she's an a-hole a-hole, but my mom thinks I should be more sympathetic. Am I the a-hole for excluding my neighbor from activities? Dang, another one that they labeled everyone sucks, but I don't think OP sucks here. OP just has boundaries. They don't live a lifestyle that's conducive to kids, and that's how they want to live their lives. Why should they cater towards these kids and everybody else in the group as well? I just don't think that OP is the a-hole, and the only person who's really showing any a-hole symptoms is the Molly. Molly can't expect everybody else to change their plans for her unless they're like family members or really good friends that have been around for a while. These are your neighbors that you just met. And honestly, the way that they explained it to her seemed fair. Oh, hey, this is something we normally do. This is a lifestyle we normally live, and if you're a part of it, it just shifts things. All of it honestly sounds very like high school drama, but I don't know, the suburban mom version of it, I guess. Personally, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole, but let's read the comments, because I always read the comments and I feel like I missed something. Both of you are a-holes. Now you clearly saw that the woman had 4 kids and the husband is a truck driver. When you invite her to go places, where the fuck else would the kids be? Come on now. Babysitter. I don't know. How do people not put these things together? Molly, she wasn't an a-hole until the whole watch my kids thing, and it takes a village. That's true. I forgot to even mention that. That's really unfair for her to be like, oh, you should come over and watch my kids without any like payment or without you offering or without us being really, really good friends to where I can ask a huge favor like that. Taking care of 4 kids is not just something that you're like, you know what, I'll volunteer for that. Like that, no. It's foolish when you don't even know the people watching your kids. Back to you. The snippy shit about having kids with an absent father is stupid and unnecessary. Okay, I'll agree with that. That's pretty fair. Y'all, you and the Mean Girls Club have every right not to kick it with the lady, but being mad that her kids come along is hella stupid. No, I don't agree with that. It wasn't like they were hella mad about it. They were like, that affects how we do things here, so bye. People are always like, put up boundaries, like, you know, speak your truth, and then when they do, they're like, you're an a-hole. What the? No. This one was juicy, guys. Always drop in the comments your guys' opinions. I always love to hear them. I always say, I could be wrong. Like, I could 100% be wrong. Throw them in the comments, guys. And hey, while you're down there, maybe hit that subscribe button. If you got to here, you probably enjoyed the video. Click right here to watch another one of my videos. Click right here to watch my podcast. I will see you guys